Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dutch of Gaming and the final update on the Tornado Shot Omniscience character. Now I will say before we get stuck in, there is much more investment I can do on the character, and I can definitely get slightly better rare gear, but in terms of major gear pieces, we're talking hundreds of divines to get noticeably better gear. The quiver I want, for example, is a mirror just for the base. The bow is going to be, I would think, 50 divines and upwards. Greater multiple projectiles in terms of the awaken version was about 20 divines last time I looked. So for now, this is the build. I'm not planning to push it much further, but I might still come back to the build later on to improve it. But I would like to try out some different builds, different ascendancies, and just have a bit more fun on the game. So the character's done everything that I want to clear in the game, including juiced invitations to feared, loads of various mapping strategies. It can get pretty deep in Simulacrum, but I think without a Headhunter or Mage Blood, you're going to struggle to consistently get to wave 30. The build's super fast, tanky enough for mapping, and it's got really good single target damage. Now, the build has cost a lot of money, but some of the items are more of a nice to have and definitely not a necessity, especially on a map with the build. But as I wanted to finish my invitations, I wanted to do the feared, then I wanted some extra gear to make sure that was slightly easier. As it turns out, the feared was fairly easy, so I probably didn't need the extra gear. But now I've got a nicely fleshed out character worth lots and lots of money if I decided I wanted to sell it off. Now, is this build the best build for the money? No, I can confidently say that. But I really like Tornado Shot and I really like Deadeye. And I didn't really want to spend the money to get a fizz to cold conversion character going. So I decided to just push Omniscience and Trinity. And it's done really, really well. I've managed to get pretty decent defenses, a very good life total for a Deadeye. And I rarely die in maps. And I really only take deaths when I juice up invitations, because I had a spell where I was farming loads of boss maps for hours, so then I decided to do all of the invitations and I juiced them up as much as I could, and I took a few deaths. So the character's level 98, and I think if I just map, I'll easily get to 99, but it's not something I'm that bothered about. The point is not really going to make that much difference because I've got really every node that I wanted to take. So what we'll do first is go through the skill tree and the Pantheons that I use in certain scenarios. Then we'll go through the gear, and then also where you can cut corners on the gear if you don't want to spend the money on some of the more expensive items that I've put into the build. So we'll start with the tree and the jewels that I've got in the build. So the tree is very similar to all of my POBs. I haven't got a lionized jewel. I just felt a cluster jewel was a bit better value when I bought it, and also it does give you a bit more damage. So I'll go through the tree, the jewels I've got, even the nodes on the Lethal Pride, and then kind of go through why I take each node. So if we start with the jewels in the build, I've really got a couple of rare jewels which could be better. This one's attack speed, accuracy, life, and LE resistances, all of which come in handy for an Omniscience build, especially the way I've built the character, because it only gets around 1100 Omniscience, because there's a few pieces that people use that haven't in this build. So there's probably 200 or 300 Omniscience you can make up if you geared your character differently. We have another rare jewel here, just with life, crit multi, and attack speed. We do have a Forbidden Flame and Flesh combo, which adds Ricochet in, which is the chain part of the Ascendancy, and I think I have the other one down here. The reason I've done it is, I want Fast Shot in the build, but I also want to keep chain, along with obviously 2 projectiles and Focal Point. Normally the option would be you just don't take the chain and then you put Awakened Chain into your links, but the Ricochet part really comes in handy for closed-in maps, and also really importantly, comes massively in handy for Sanctum. Sanctum is a cakewalk on this build. You literally kill enemies within milliseconds because your projectiles ricochet off all of the terrain. It's really, really good. So these jewels are expensive. I don't know how much they are now, but they cost me probably 14 divines for the set. So if you just wanted it for mapping, you could probably drop this, just go this way, and then put chain into your links. It's obviously going to lower your DPS, going to make you clear better though, and if you just wanted it for mapping, that's an option instead of forking out for the Forbidden Jewels. If you do want it, equally you can go for Focal Point or Gathering Wind. You can go for any of these because they're all nodes that we want. You just go with whatever set is cheapest and then you work your way around it. At the time, Ricochet was cheaper, so that's what I went with. And then we have a Watcher's Eye that could definitely be upgraded. This one's probably not even a divine. It's just got attack damage while affected by precision. But you could get another mod on here, maybe evasion with grace. You could get life on hit with vitality and put a level 1 vitality into the build. You get double precision. There's loads of better Watcher's Eyes you can get into the build, but I've just gone with this because I didn't really want to go spending loads on a Watcher's Eye when really all I wanted was that extra precision damage. But as I say, there is plenty you can do with Watcher's Eyes if you wanted to. And then we'll go through the cluster jewels, and then we'll go through the lethal pride. So the cluster jewel I'm running is Doriani's Lesson, Sadist, and Stormrider. Sadist and Stormrider are the only ones that matter because we don't take Doriani's Lesson at the end, but having a third notable means it's less travel points. So Sadist gives you increased daily damage if you've chilled, ignited, or shocked an enemy. And then Stormrider gives you a chance to get power charges, and they're up pretty much all of the time. We have a medium cluster jewel with Repeater and Streamlined. Now, these are probably not the best because I was running one of them when I had Point Blank. So if you look at this one, Repeater is increased projectile damage and increased attack speed, and Streamlined is speed and damage. Then I'm running another one with Eye to Eye and Repeater. Now, Eye to Eye is probably not that great now. I'm not running Point Blank because a lot of its damage comes from hitting nearby enemies, but it sort of helps add a bit of extra damage if you are close to the enemy. So I don't think there's much between the jewels. If you were really short on crit chance, you could take some crit jewels instead. And then again, we just got Repeater, which is increased projectile damage and attack speed. In terms of the lethal pride, I just wanted Intimidate and one double damage node. The reason is I did have Intimidate on my gloves, but when we go through the gear, I'll show you kind of how I've changed those up. So in terms of the nodes, we've got some double damage and Intimidate here, which are the important nodes. And then I think, we have another double damage here. And then the rest are kind of okay, like extra strength is good for this. But overall, I just wanted one double damage, one Intimidate. It turned out this one come up on the market for like 3 divine, so I bought it. So that kind of covers off the tree and the jewels. So I'll just run through the gear and then the Pantheons that I'm using when I'm mapping and when I'm bossing. So I've just done the Feared, and the Pantheons I went with were Arakali, just to get a lot more protection from damage over time and chaos damage over time. And then I've taken Soul of Rizlatha because the enemies you've hit recently have reduced life regeneration. Helps if Maven ends up healing the bosses. And then just to help with that, I also took a node here, which is nearby enemies have 50% reduced life regeneration rate. It just means that basically Maven's not going to do really much at all to enemies in terms of regen and health. But this is not a permanent thing. This is really just to get an invitation done. I'll drop to life node to do that. So we'll just spec it back before I forget. So in terms of the gear, it is basically just a triple elemental bow with crit chance and attack speed. If you had tons and tons of currency, you would want the same, but with +1 or +2 arrows. The helmet is tornado shot files, an additional secondary projectile. And then the implicits I've gone for are reduced mana cost of attacks, because you want to get this as low as possible. And then increased mana reservation efficiency of skills, because you're probably going to need that along with at least a level 3 Enlighten, just to make your mana nice and comfy. And then in terms of stats, you want to try and get some spell suppression so that you can at least drop some nodes or masteries on the tree. And then anything you want to go for, whether it's stats, chaos res, resistance, and then you just want big life. Obviously running Crystallized Omniscience, and at the moment I've got Farsight anointed because I don't cap accuracy. This basically puts my accuracy at 100%. If I don't anoint this, everything else is kind of a DPS loss because I don't reach that accuracy cap. If you do have like accuracy cap on gear, you'd obviously want to go for someone else, whether that be more crit multi or crit chance, or anything else that adds damage. The quiver, you basically want this, but if you are going for a super quiver, you would not have the attack speed and you would have +1 arrows instead. Last league, I had a synthesized +1 arrow base, but this league, at the moment, they're like a mirror. I certainly am not that interested in getting just one more arrow for that sort of money. So all I did here was brought a fractured base and then spammed the attack speed essences. This is actually probably not that good. I think crit multi would be better. But it's got some damage to bows, it's got life, and it's got lightning damage to attack. So it's a fairly decent quiver, but nothing to write home about. I think you could definitely get better. I'm using an Onslaught synthesized ring. This is something I picked up really early in the league for like 8 divines. I think they're probably much more now, and is not something you necessarily need because there's plenty of ways of getting Onslaught on kill. I just wanted to make this sort of a bosser as well, so I went for this ring. It is really good because basically anytime you hit an enemy, you get Onslaught for 4 seconds. And then instead of stacking attributes, I've actually gone with going for damage. And I think it turns out to be slightly better. I've also managed to fit in some elemental resistances because I'm not stacking attributes on the ring. The other ring is where I'm getting attributes. This could probably be better, but I do need chaos resistance. So I've set off for double attributes, chaos resistance, life, and then minus mana cost. And you do want that minus mana cost crafted on both of your rings. For the chest piece, this is just a big life chest piece with then resistances, stats, whatever you want on it. And we need chance to avoid elemental ailments to cap out the ailment avoidance. So I've gone for Grace, Aura Effect, and non-curse auras from skills. You could go Determination. It's really up to you. I think Determination will probably be slightly better for survivability, but I've rolled this and I'm happy with it. The boots is where we're getting most of the ailment avoidance from. So I've rolled this with Deafening Essences of Loathing. It's also got the implicit on it. So in total, these boots give us 58% ailment avoidance. And then it's just, resistances, stats, life, whatever you need to cap the character out. And then I've gone for increased effect of Onslaught for the other implicit because I've pretty much got Onslaught all the time as soon as I hit an enemy. So it makes sense to improve that slightly. It's not massive. It's probably like less than 1% DPS and not much more movement speed. So this is certainly not necessary, but I thought I might as well roll it. The gloves, as I mentioned before, I was running Intimidate, but I wanted to bring that into the Lethal Pride because I want to get Rage on hit. Feels really, really good for mapping because every second you're going to generate Rage, which improves your attack speed. So I bought a Fractured Spell Suppression base. They weren't a lot of money because it's only T2. And then I've just rolled the implicits, and then I've just rolled these with Strength Essences until I hit something that was half decent. In all fairness, these gloves are actually quite bad. I'll probably re-roll these, but they do for now. The reason I'd re-roll them is there is lots of good damage mods on gloves. But because I don't have a ton of Omniscience, I actually do need to get resistances in a few places to make sure that I'm capped. But I could re-roll these and certainly get better than what they are. We could get some attack speed on the gloves. There's also some really good crafts. So I think I probably will look to recraft these at some point. But for now, they work absolutely fine. The belt is a synthesized belt with increased strength. I've just rolled Dex Essences until I hit basically Dex and Strength. I hit Big Life, crafted LE damage with attack skills. That'll do me. Again, this could be better because I didn't use Deafening Essences because I ran out. So you could probably get 30 more attributes on this, which with all your percentage increases could work out to sort of, maybe even 100 difference. So you could get some Omniscience back here if you crafted a better belt than what I've got. And then the other things are the flasks, and these are bog standard for me for these sort of builds. It's a crit flask, evasion flask, armor flask, and then Quicksilver. And then I've gone for attack speed, armor, evasion, and critical strike as the suffixes. So overall, I think there's a few different ways to build this character. This is what I've gone with. It works really, really well. It's really good mapping. It's good bossing. It feels tanky enough. It's really fun to play. And I can pretty much do any Atlas strategy that I want, and I know this will get it done really, really comfortably. So all the gem links are going to be included in the POB, but we may as well go through them for completion's sake. So in my body armor, I have Awakened Deadly damage with attacks, crit damage, Divergent Inspiration just to lower the mana cost even more. Got Trinity, GMP, and then Tornado Shot. I would want Awakened GMP here, but it's quite expensive. I've not forked out for the expense yet. But that's kind of the 6 link I'm going for. If you wanted to, you could probably drop Awakened Deadly damage with attacks for Mirage Archer. Probably feels slightly better for clear. But I do like getting this up to level 5 because then it gives us basically Reflect Immune from our main Tornado Shot skill. And Helmet, just got a Flame Dash, Link to Life Support, and then Mark on Hit and Sniper's Mark. And the gloves have got a Molten Shell with a cast from damage taken. Defiance Banner, and then a Vile Haste. You don't want to run the Haste part. It's just for the Vile skill. In terms of the bow, you could probably have a different selection of gems in here, but this is what I've gone for. So we've gone for Tornado Shot, linked to Focus Ballista, and then Ballista Support. Then I've got GMP, Inspiration, and LE damage with attacks. Inspiration is probably not the best DPS gem, but it really helps you to be able to spam the ballistas without worrying too much about getting into mana issues because we only have 69 spare mana. And then the big auras are linked up to an Enlightened level 3 in my boots. And that's Precision, Determination, and Grace, all level 21. 21 Precision is pretty important because without it, you kind of drop a couple of percent in accuracy. And if we have a look at my stats, I'm basically bang on cap and obviously not capped on evasive monsters. But if I drop anything on my build, I will lose that 100%. And in terms of our crit chance, we're 53% without anything up, but obviously we'll have inspiration charges. We're going to have our flask up. So we've got a decent crit chance. It could be better. Same with the crit multi. It's good, but it could definitely be improved upon. And then again, projectiles can definitely be better. At 7, you would definitely want more. So Awakened GMP would take me to 8. 1 on the quiver, 9. I would be happy with that. We can maybe sneak 1 on the bow. That would push it to 10. But to get it sort of 11 and 12 is where it costs an absolute fortune. And for the content I'm doing, I don't need any more. So it kind of feels not really worthwhile pushing it any more than this. It does everything that I want to do in the game. And that's kind of it for the guide. This kind of closes out my league start. Christmas has obviously kind of not gotten away because it's obviously a great time of year, but has slowed down my progress a little bit in terms of getting to the final point of the build. But it was a lot of fun to league start bow skills, transitioning into Tornado Shot without having to start, a second character and level another character up to sort of 90-95. This has worked really well. Rain of Arrows served its purpose. The build felt much better than I thought it would. And then going into Tornado Shot again, this feels really good, if not an expensive build to play. So the POB will be in the video description. That, as I say, that closes out this character for now. I may come back to it later, but hopefully the next video that comes on the channel is going to be a different build, but I'm not sure what that's going to be yet. I hope everyone had a good Christmas and has a good new year. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.